fight's not over.
Stop the fight!
People.
Everybody, I come here for everybody. Kill everybody. I'm the champ. I'm the king. Kill everybody. Ah!
Okay, guys, welcome back to Broke Bets. It's Lane here, and we got Carson on the other side. What's up, dude?
We're back.
Yes, sir. Coming off a clean sweep for the betting week for Lewis versus Spivak. Up 4.44 units from that, and if you want to go ahead and go to the picks portion of the video, go ahead, but for right now, we'll do like a 3-minute recap or whatever of this event. First bet, Charles Johnson. I wasn't very convinced that Charles Johnson actually won this fight. I mean, I don't think most people were, but second round was real close, third round was Johnson, first round was Valdez, and I got lucky there, and I saw a lot of other cappers did, but the same time, Valdez failed some takedowns, and I think that looks bad to the judges, but somehow got that one. First fight of the night, Natalia Silva, man, I watched the live odds while this fight was happening, and Silva was like plus 170 in the middle of the second round when she defended takedowns, and she looked really strong and still fresh, and looked tired. So I went on to DraftKings, and by the time I saw it, it was at minus 130, which I still thought was a good number, so I took a live bet there for 1 unit, made some little extra cash on that. She seems like a good fighter, too, good future fighter for that division, strong girl. Similar to Amanda Ribas.
Good, too.
Yeah, looked good. Parlay, I had Jack Della Maddalena. We don't really need to talk too much. Easy money with Miles Johns, and Miles Johns, again, somebody else I wasn't very convinced with that he was going to win. I said this fight was going to be very close. I think it's just the fact that Miles Johns was moving forward in this fight. Vince Morales kind of moved backwards. Although Johns failed a lot of takedowns. Honestly, I can't remember exactly how I scored that fight. It was pretty slow. But there was 1 or 2 extremely close rounds to try to call. Got that one. Somehow he got unanimous decision. Going down to the props, I had, you had here, Andre Fiallo, Muslim Salikov.
Yeah, under 2.5. I think Salikov rocked him in round 2 and then got on top of him and just, I don't know, kind of weighed on him for 30 seconds. I thought he might have gotten the finish there. And then round 3, you could see Fiallo wasn't really throwing much and was getting pieced up. And then whoever the ref was.
I loved everything about that fight. Like,
yeah,
like I like the fact that Fiallo was just swinging for the fences, and like Salikov, like those spinning kicks are just wicked fast. I mean, that was a really good call for the under 2.5. I mean, it was like getting close to that marker, but totally should have been finished at the time it was or earlier.
Yeah, Fiallo ate a lot more punches than I thought he would have.
Right. He tried to play the counter game, and I think Salikov found him trying to bait him, so he found his path there. But
yeah, and he was hitting the body as well too.
Right. Again, I loved everything about that fight. I thought actually Salikov was going to be the one that slowed down a little bit more, but it was Fiallo. Next one, jacked by KO. Pretty easy. Could have done the first round KO thing, but I was just like, hey, we'll just bet the KO a little bit more heavy because it's going to happen, and it did. And the odds probably could have been even further up for it. But, yeah, easy. And then Kennedy and Njoku and Ian Cutelaba. Cutelaba fumbled another fight, but he always fights high pace. And Njoku is so much bigger than him. Threw that knee up the middle. This was parlayed with Derek Lewis, and Derek Lewis and Sergey Spivak going under 2.5, and that fell off, so it turned into a straight bet, which I'll take that 0.39 units all day. And yeah, no, that's the, I believe, 3rd straight winning week, something like that. And yeah, we'll get to all the other picks here. Okay, for the first fight, we have Yasmin Jauregui versus Istela Nunes. I might mess that name up, but Yasmin has looked like a very good prospect coming into this women's division. She looked extremely fast in her first fight with a high fight IQ versus Isman Lucindo. And Istela Nunes, on the other hand, slowed down in her most recent fight versus Sam Hughes. Kind of had a lot teeing off on Sam Hughes early and slowed down as the fight went on. I think that's going to be a tough thing for her to overcome here. Yasmin, very twitchy. If you watch her regional fights, she's just very good at putting feints on to finding her strikes. Stella Nunes has very good hands in the first round, but once again, Sam Hughes came back on her and won that fight. She can get taken down. Yasmin actually has pretty good takedowns herself and really good takedown defense. And how do you see this fight ending?
Yeah, I like a knockout for Yasmin. She puts on a good pace too, and is always moving forward. I think she can find a finish later in the fight.
Yeah, I might put round two or round three. Like I said, Sam Hughes just came back on Estela Nunes and made a tough fight for her. And Yasmin, if you watch that for her UFC debut fight, I mean, she could have knocked this girl out with like 5 or 6 of the strikes that she caught her straight on the chin with. But the other girl had a really good chin, young, talented fighter as well. I'd expect. Yeah,
I don't know how she survived.
Maybe they just didn't they weren't fully committed punches, but this girl has very good accuracy on the chin. Again, I really like the highlights from that fight. She's got, like I said, good takedown defense. Some girls try to get her in the body lock. She can defend those. She could take down Istela herself. I mean, she feels like one of the locks of the card. I would say it feels pretty safe to actually bet on this girl. Typically don't say a ton about that, but yeah, I think she's a pretty good favorite here. Jauregui by KO round 2. I'll never be able to say that last name. Okay, for the next fight, we have Francis Marshall versus Marcelo Rojo. I know you like this matchup. Who are you picking here?
I got Francis Marshall in this one. I liked what I saw from him in the Contender Series. I think he'll be able to put on a pace, mix in the wrestling, and I don't know. How do you see this one finishing?
I see this one going to a decision. I think that he's a very good tough guy, and he didn't seem to look for too many submission opportunities in his Contender Series fight. He was also on that iconic week of the Contender Series, week 2, and his opponent. The toughest part about Francis Marshall here is that his record's not extremely tested, but versus Connor Matthews, he ate a lot of big punches in the first round. Matthews was putting a pace on him, and I thought Francis had a really good rounds 2 and 3, mixing in the grappling, timing some strikes on Matthews as he was coming in. I really liked what I saw from his game. Of course, it's really hard to understand how this will translate to a UFC fight versus a pretty tested fighter. Marcelo Rojo, this dude's been pretty tough as well. I mean, he's got really good hands, and that's kind of one of the scares for this fight. His offense is very good, but
if this gets out of the first round, I like Marshall even more in this one. Just looking at Rojo's record of his wins, mostly all of them are by first round finish, first round finish, first round finish, first round finish. Yeah. So, and of his losses, Rojo's, they're usually in round 3. His last 4 losses are all in round 3.
Right. I don't know. He put on some pretty decent performances against very tough guys in the division. Now, he did get finished by Kyler Phillips, but he actually held his own ground for some portions of that fight. And I believe that was a short notice fight. Charles Jourdain, again, had a bit of his offense hit Jourdain to the body a lot. I think that just the big thing that stands out to me is, again, that mixing in wrestling. And I think that Francis Marshall, the Fire Marshal, looked pretty good mixing in grappling when he needed to. Also, his gas tank was very good. He was in a war in that Contender Series fight. And both guys used up a lot of gas, and I thought that he held up pretty well. So, looks like a pretty good young prospect, and we'll see him get tested here. Okay, for the next fight, we have Natan Levy versus Genaro Valdez. I'm kind of looking at a firefight here. I think this one's going to be a finishing fight. That's how I see it, just with the pace sometimes these guys fight at. And Valdez, I don't think he's actually been to the distance once before. He'd been in the third round, I believe, once, but was in a firefight with Matt Frivola, but that's Matt Frivola. That's pretty standard. Natan Levy fought against Mike Breeden, had some really good power strikes in that fight, but red flag about him seems that he slows down a lot. Especially, he has a wrestling base, but the wrestling just seems to slow him down more. Kind of a confusing fighter to nail down on this, but I think we might see a submission in this fight. I mean, do you agree with that?
From what way? You think Levy will find a submission?
Yeah, I think Levy could find the back here. He's probably going to wrestle because Valdez is pretty dangerous on the feet. Try to work his way to a submission to slow Valdez down. Although I did like, even when Valdez was hurt versus Matt Frivola, he found his way out of a couple bad positions. So his scrambling ability might be good enough to get out of these bad positions with Levy. But Levy as well, I mean, he could find a knockout here. He threw a lot of heavy left hooks against Breeden. He likes to square up sometimes on the fence and trade, and then shoot back for a takedown. This is a hard fight to call, though. Like I said, what I like about this fight is it not going the distance. I think Valdez searches for that finish if Levy slows down, and again, he's just live for a finish as well. So I don't know. I see a submission round 2 possibly for this fight. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I like it. I could see Valdez finding a knockout too.
It's a dicey fight.
Levy's never been knocked out before, so.
The only worry for this one, not going the distance, is that Levy gets tired and just tries to lay on Valdez, but I think that Valdez hopefully will be able to scramble out of that, because I'm going to bet this one going under 2.5 rounds, just to let everyone know. But, yeah, I love Natan Levy here by a submission. Next fight, I can see what the UFC is doing with this fight. I know what they're trying to go for. Tracy Cortez versus Amanda Ribas. In this matchup, it's incredibly hard to call. You know, I see some of the Tapology community favoring Cortez here, but Amanda Ribas actually has pretty good takedown defense. I'm going to pick her in this spot. This is an incredibly close fight, though. What you have to weigh in this fight is, if Tracy Cortez gets a takedown, is Amanda Ribas just going to lay on her back the whole fight and just sit there and guard and play around? Because that's exactly what Melissa Gatto did with Tracy Cortez. And Melissa Gatto could have easily won that fight by staying on the feet, or she had times where she went for the takedowns and took the back, and then Cortez reversed position. I think that she could have easily lost that fight, Cortez, if she had 0 damage. She did 0 damage. I don't see this one going to a finish here, unless Ribas just puts a pressure on Cortez. But I like this one to go the distance. I don't think you're striking extremely clean, Amanda. I mean, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the odds pretty much indicate that this is a pick'em fight. Even the Tapology community pretty much agrees, 51 to 49%. I mean, you can't really go wrong in this spot. Just, it's a toss-up.
Yeah, in my mind, it's just that Cortez, if she's going to fight, she's going to take her down and she's going to lay in her guard. And that's kind of what you're looking for if you want Cortez to win. And if Ribas is going to win, it's going to be defending takedowns and working her way up from the guard. But again, it's like 2 takedowns in this fight could win Cortez the fight, because Amanda might just play off her back. Again, not very smart, but I don't know. I just have a little bit of a feeling that Ribas will be able to pull this one out. Close fight. Maybe Cortez stands up as a contender to keep pushing our way up, but it's be a tough test with good takedown defense on the other side. So, I wanted to mention, or I think I maybe mentioned the Virna Drana fight. Like, her takedown defense was good in instances, but also Virna just did like some tricks where she got around her hips and put her right down. And I don't know, there's some questions behind that. She was pretty good on the doubles and singles, though, defending those. Amanda Ribas by decision. Okay, for the next one, we have Darren Elkins versus Jonathan Pearce. Elkins, end of his career, taken so much damage as we've seen in his career. And Pearce, pretty good wrestler, pretty good grappler. Kind of curious how he would stand up to somebody actually maybe pushing him forward. I don't love this matchup. I also don't think Pearce should be a huge favorite, but Elkins beating Tristan Conley. Tristan Conley, not a very good fighter, just pretty old and makes a giant weight cut. And he got destroyed by Cub Swanson. And then, of course, he has some comeback performances that are his trademark. But Jonathan Pearce, pace and pressure wrestling. I'm not the biggest fan of Jonathan Pearce. He does have a good pace and pressure, but I think a lot of it's just sloppy, and he's a little bit bigger than the people he's facing. It's hard to pick against him here, obviously, just with the age and the size of Pearce. And, I see a finish in this fight. Do you think it's going to be a KO or a submission?
Yeah, I could. I'd probably lean towards a knockout. Probably just ground and pound, or even a knockdown and then ground and pound, or just Elkins being cut up.
Generally do a doctor stoppage. Right. Yeah. I kind of think submission in ways, but also Darren's pretty damn good on the ground. We might see a standing knockout too, because this is going to be a chance for Pearce to really test his stand-up. Not that Elkins doesn't have like a horrible stand-up, but like he ain't going to cut down the distance and throw an overhand and sleep you. That's just not his style. So Jonathan Pearce, I just put KO round 1. We'll just see if the old man holds up here. But gotta stick with the favorite. Okay, for the next fight, we have Michael Johnson versus Marc Diakiese. Michael Johnson kind of struggles against wrestlers. He's also getting up there in age. Marc Diakiese, on the up and up, 2 straight wins, but also a competitive striker. I'm going to sit with Marc Diakiese here, as most people would in this situation. I'm also going to take him by decision. There is some questions I think about with this fight. Is that Diakiese faced 2 people in a row with awful takedown defense. He faced Damir Hadzovic and Borishev. And this is a kind of a scary thing in a way, is he get those takedowns so easy against those guys, but maybe when he faces somebody a little bit better takedown defense, not that Johnson has that good of takedown defense, if he's going to get those takedowns. But I also think he can outstrike Michael Johnson on the feet. Diakiese even had his competitive moments with Rafael Fiziev. Michael Johnson in a close fight with Jamie Mullarkey where he was hurt multiple times, and I don't think Jamie Mullarkey is that technical great of a fighter. I actually did think that Johnson won this fight, although it was very close. And I don't know, I thought that knockdown he had in that fight in the first round was more significant. Maybe it's the second round. I don't know. It's hard to pick Michael Johnson here. I think his hands are looking a little bit less coordinated too. I think he has a little bit more of a swing on his shots. They're not super short. Still has the knockout power. But I got this man parlayed up, and I'll tell you the other leg of it later. But yeah.
Yeah, I like Diakiese by decision. He's been turning into one of the Dagestans in his last couple fights, and he continues to do so.
He doesn't
pretty easily in this fight.
He doesn't care what the crowd thinks of him wrestling too. He doesn't give a fuck. He'll do it for 3 rounds.
Both those fights were in London, I'm pretty sure. So
right, and he didn't look too tired when he was doing any of the wrestling. So Also, there was no takedowns really defended, but yeah. You gotta take Marc here by decision. Prepare for a very biased opinion on this fight. We have Guida versus Scott's Holtzman, and this channel, with the Carpenter himself, I don't think we can pick against Guida. He's kind of a fan favorite between me and Carson here, and I think there is some things that go against him in this fight, but I also think that this boy's got heart. He's got great stamina, and his striking is also going to surprise people. And I'm actually thinking a knockout for Guida. I think we're going to see a knockout.
That's a bold prediction.
Dude, he's twitchy and he's fast. That fight, oh god, is it on this list? Jim Miller. When he fought Jim Miller, that was a while ago, I suppose. He stung Jim Miller really early in that fight, and then Jim Miller stung him back, which led to a guillotine. But, dude, he's a durable dude. He's extremely good cardio, as we know. Not much will stop this dude. Even in that Claudio Puelles fight, he was defending all the submission attempts until the knee bar kind of worked its way in, but he's also a way smaller person in that fight. He's going to be the smaller guy in this fight, and I also just like the way he's in and out of range with his overhands. I know he's super old. Holtzman's very old, but I'm going to take a chance on Guida. He's one of our fan favorites. His burps in his corner, his metal music, the slaps before the fight, the post-fight interviews where he's jumping around or running in place. I love it all. And then talking about fishing, you gotta appreciate the guy. Scott Holtzman, I don't know what his commitment's gonna look like. Obviously, lost against some good competitive components in the last two fights, but it's after a layoff. And I don't know, that the Carpenter don't slow down, man. And
this will be a year and a half layoff for Holtzman since being finished by Game Run. I mean, he's fought better competition of the last couple fights here, but rolling with Guida.
Guida, KO round 2. You gotta cheer for that finish. Okay, for the next fight, we have Angela Hill versus Emily Ducote. Angela Hill, such a strange fighter. In this women's division, kind of a person who could beat everybody but also lose to everybody. Her level of competition, though, is very high. Her activity is always very high. I think she set like 6 or 7 fights, I think, in the COVID year or some shit. I really do think she beat Amanda Lemos, and that's kind of weird to think about, because Amanda Lemos is kind of on the verge of a title shot, and Angela Hill won rounds 2 and 3 on that fight, and somehow didn't get the decision. But like I think most people know, her takedown defense isn't crazy good. Lupita Godinez came in with horrible fight IQ and didn't try to take her down until like late in the fight, and lost that fight. I think Emily Ducote represents a similar fighter to someone on her record, and that's Tecia Torres, but maybe just a little bit less movement. She had really good leg kicks in her fight against Jessica Penne. She actually has a pretty tested record with some of her fights in the past, and I think that she's very stable just with her punches at range. And this will be a very close fight. Probably worth betting a split decision if you're out there. I feel like Angela Hill fights and split decisions probably just go together.
I wonder what that line is set at for a split decision.
I haven't seen that out yet, but
no.
I'm going to pick Ducote by decision. I feel like there hasn't need to be a ton said about this. I don't see takedowns for Ducote either, but stand-up leg kicks, slows down Angela Hill, and maybe hits the heavier shots. Next fight we have is Niko Price versus Phillip Rowe. Niko Price, kind of known as a fan favorite. Pretty much Darren Elkins' younger brother, just the way he fights, just takes a shit ton of damage. And I just don't know if all that mileage and all that damage that's been done to Niko, and he looks a bit slower in his Cowboy Oliveira fight. I'm thinking Phillip Rowe gets this win. I just think, for one, Phillip Rowe is pretty massive for this division. He's 6'3", 80.5-inch reach. Niko is really big too, but Phil's got like a somewhat of an Alex Pereira frame for this division, comparatively. And Niko Price has that awkward frame as well, like the weird shoulders and shit. But he's also not very technical, and he's a dog fighter, which I can respect. But I think he's going to walk into some strikes here. Phil Rowe hasn't shown the best fight IQ. He kind of doesn't let his hands go at times and lets takedowns come into play, and then plays around on the ground sometimes and can let rounds slip away. In his fight against Gabe Green, he seemed to get hurt a couple of times, but Gabe Green was also very fast. Watch the combinations in that. He just touches Phil's chin a couple times and tests him. Also, leg kicks, didn't really deal with those at all. And then he's coming off 2 wins against kind of wrestlers in Jason Witt and Kosei, but looked hesitant. And this is a very tough fight to call again, another close odds one. I just think that Niko has taken his fair share of damage. I mean, he's been knocked out before in his career. The way he looked in that Vicente Luque fight late in the fight was just tough. And I think that Phil Rowe's right hand down the pipe might put Price out early. He'll get his hands going later in the fight once he feels a little more comfortable. I'm going to say Rowe KO round 2. You like that?
I like this fight. Ended in a finish. Both these guys are from Florida too, so not sure who the home crowd would be cheering for here.
Right. I think Niko Price has the well-known name, and he's a little bit more what Florida represents, I could say. Gabe Green, I think, was super close to finishing Phil Rowe like 4 times. So, if not, I think Niko gets that finish in that time frame. But maybe Niko eats all of the strikes. I don't know, but Phil's pretty freaking big guy. And, yeah, I'm thinking a right hand gets him down. KO round 2. Okay, for the next fight, we have Eryk Anders versus Kyle Daukaus. Kyle Daukaus in his last fight getting kneed in the face by Roman Dolidze. I actually think he kind of has a frame like his brother for this division. I mean, he's skinny and it doesn't have a really high muscle structure, or he's like pretty bony dude, but is awkward to deal with, and his brother kind of is a little bit smaller for the heavyweight division in a way to be comparable. I think that Eryk Anders is just kind of a tough guy, and just because Joe Rogan kind of likes to talk about him on pay-per-views and stuff, he gets a little bit more name recognition than he should. I thought he obviously lost to Park. And I just think he's kind of a tough guy in this division. He can take the strikes. He doesn't do a lot of damage. He can hit hard when he connects, but he doesn't connect that often. And I think Kyle Daukaus might just get him up on the cage until he finds a backpack or somehow to get him to the ground to find a submission. I've never been that high on Eryk Anders, so.
Is Darce Knight going to find a Darce choke?
It'd be cool if he did. I don't know if he'll be in that position at all. Maybe Eryk will shoot on him. We'll see. But, yeah, I'm sticking with Kyle Daukaus by submission round 2. Alright, next fight we have is Jack Hermansson versus Roman Dolidze. This is a hard fight. Another hard one to break down, but I think we're seeing a stylistic matchup here. A more powerful puncher in person in Roman Dolidze, and a more high-volume fighter in Jack Hermansson. And I think we're seeing the Jack Hermansson side of things here. Chris Curtis' fight was a good example of him facing a power puncher and kind of avoiding those big strikes and working his way to a decision and touching him up at range. The Sean Strickland fight, he struggled to connect on almost all of his strikes, but at the same time, Sean Strickland has very good striking defense, even though he got knocked out by Pereira. I think that he also improved his striking even a decent amount coming from that fight. And yeah, I think that his length is pretty good. He uses kicks. He uses head kicks. He'll use pretty good straight punches still. And he'll have the volume advantage. I just don't think Dolidze will have the volume. And if Jack Hermansson in a scorecard in the Sean Strickland fight if one of the people, it was like Sal D'Amato or something, gave Jack Hermansson a round when he clearly lost 4 or 5 of the rounds, there's a high chance he could get a robbery win if this one goes to a decision. And Roman Dolidze, I think if he wins this one, it's going to have to be by a knockout. I don't really see him submitting Jack Hermansson, who's pretty sound on the ground. Good jiu-jitsu guy. And, I don't know, this will be a tough fight. Fun fight to watch, though, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this fight. I mean, I was more confident in Hermansson beating Derek Brunson than I am in Hermansson beating Dolidze. Just the role Dolidze's been on his last couple fights.
Right. I think that, yeah, if this is like a legitimizing fight for Dolidze, if he wins this one, he could actually be pushed in the title picture with one more fight after this. So,
right.
Yeah, we're doing Jack Hermansson by decision and what could be a very close fight. Okay, for the next fight we have Tuivasa versus Sergey Pavlovich. A very good heavyweight matchup. I mean, what are your thoughts, and who do you think is going to win here?
Yeah, I'm going with Pavlovich. I just think his 9-inch reach advantage will play a huge factor into this fight. Ty being knocked out a few months ago, he looked good in that fight, but I mean, he still took a beating. I don't like it that he's taken this fight just a couple months after a couple months ago when he got knocked out.
Right, and Ty, I mean, he took a shit ton of damage in that fight. Maybe he didn't get knocked out extremely clean, but he was on wobbly legs 2 or 3 times in that fight. A big red.
I don't know if he was playing. It looked like he was playing possum.
One of the times.
Of them, but
yeah. I also think about with a lot of people that Ty has fought here, and I don't put it past that he could get a comeback win, and I'm obviously a fan still of his fighting style. Is that a lot of these people dove into range with him? Like the Greg Hardy one is a perfect example. Like Greg heard him, ran into him, and instantly got the lights put out. Pavlovich has that length where if he touches Ty, he can still stay out of striking range with Ty and keep fucking him up. It's also tough to go against a guy who's almost 16-0. I mean, the Alistair Overeem fight, he clearly just wasn't ready for the grappling side of things and kind of gave up when he got tired. Other than that, it's been pretty clean for him. I know that the level of competition hasn't been amazing. Derek Lewis is still a quick win. But people complain about the stoppage in the Derek Lewis fight, but his head was on the fucking mat for a second.
He fell head first on the canvas. I mean, I don't blame whoever the ref was for stopping that. I think it was hardly on it.
Watching it live, I was like, the fight's about to stop. And then when Derek popped up, you're like, well, that just happened. You can't really... it's the same thing with Michael Chandler, passed out in his fight with Patricio Pitbull, however many years ago, and then woke up a second later. It's hard to... You can't blame the ref for the body language. But, again, it's Ty could have a comeback win here, but the size is just incredibly hard to get over. Even in the Cyril Gane fight, the one strike that he landed that looked like it was about to put Cyril down, it didn't land as clean as I think some people thought it did. Gane had his chin, his hand by his chin, and I think it hit his hand, which then hit his chin and kind of threw him off balance. But it's not to say that Ty's not dangerous. I'm just saying it's a moment that I think people are gonna put too much focus on, possibly. Do you see a round this ends?
Yeah, it's got to be round 1 or 2. I mean,
right.
If just looking at Pavlovich's record, I mean, round 1 knockout, round 1 knockout, round
small
1
cage,
knockout.
Small cage too.
Is it?
Yeah, this is Vegas. They're gonna be.
No, this is in Orlando.
Oh shit! It is. Either way, I think this is gonna be a small. Not a small cage. It's not. It's gonna be. They're gonna be so close to each other. Ty likes to stay in people's faces, so under 1.5. I see it that way too.
Yeah, I agree. I think Lewis and Tai Tuivasa are pretty similar for Pavlovich.
Right.
Style-wise.
All right, Pavlovich KO round 1. Okay, for the next fight we have Matheus Nicolau versus Matt Schnell. This fight honestly feels pretty straightforward to me. Going with Matheus Nicolau, the dude has looked good his whole entire time in the UFC. He had a crazy close fight with Manel Kape, who's a very good striker, getting slept by most people. And recently in his fight with David Dvorak, completely timed David Dvorak the whole fight. I mean, David Dvorak was moving forward, never really could get Nicolau's timing, and Nicolau is very explosive when he gets his hands going when someone steps into range. And he stunned Dvorak, I think, twice in that fight, which could have ended in a knockout if he was a little bit more aggressive. But he's also got very good jiu-jitsu. You look at Matt Schnell, also good jiu-jitsu, but can give up position sometimes with it. Jauregui, this dude unloaded on Schnell. His chin kind of was all over the place for a round. I don't think Nicolau will chase him, but I think that Schnell will come into range and a knockout will happen.
Yeah, and Jauregui gassed out in that fight just from throwing everything he had. Right.
And I don't know, I think even this feels like even a little bit of a quick fight back to back to fighting for Schnell. I mean, he took a lot of damage in that Jauregui fight, and his chin was shooken quite a few times. His fight IQ, I think, is just going to be less than Schnell here. This is my other parlay leg to Marc Diakiese. I just think that Nicolau's going to time that right or left hand, just hook him right when he comes in, and bink, it's going to be lights out for Schnell. He's been finished a lot and likes to search for zone finishes. And yeah, I'm all over the KO right here for Nicolau. Anything else for you?
When was Nicolau's last knockout?
Well, that's the thing, but at the same time, I mean, this is the way he stunned Dvorak. I just think if Schnell's hand or head couldn't hold up to some of the strikes that Jauregui was just popping him with like a jab and stuff, I don't know if he's going to be able to hold up to a knockout at all here.
I could see it. I mean, I'd imagine most people would be on the decision Nicolau side, but I wonder what the knockout prop would be like.
It's probably juicy.
Yeah.
I would assume it. I mean, we might also see a club and sub here because Nicolau's also very good on the ground. But I'm just thinking a flatliner. He just gets his hips real low and he'll dig in his feet and really throw that hand. So again, KO round 2, Matheus Nicolau. Okay, for the next fight we have Rafael Dos Anjos versus Bryan Barberena. RDA, everyone knows his kind of style. Marches forward, has a really good piston of a left hand, good takedowns, and good body kicks. And Bryan Barberena, he's just chaos. He's like the Tasmanian Devil, is pretty much what he is. And he'll just go wild with striking, but doesn't commit to a lot of crazy power strikes. And, you know, we've watched that Matt Brown fight, UFC Columbus. I can remember that one pretty well. And Matt Brown pretty much took him down at will. And RDA should be able to do the same here. I mean, he's coming up a weight class, back to welterweight for this fight. And Bryan Barberena, not the biggest welterweight, but also can hold his size. I think we're going to see RDA just ragdoll Barberena here, and that's why he's such a big favorite. I mean, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, I mean, that's his clear path to victory. Take him down. Yeah, you mentioned it, the Matt Brown fight. He got taken down pretty much at will. I just see RDA clinching him against the fence and taking him down and ragdolling him for 3 rounds.
Even in the striking, I think that RDA can dodge some more of the strikes. I mean, Robbie Lawler was trying to bob and weave a lot, and then he got caught with one punch that like changed the fight, which he was ahead in. That was another really good fight, but I gotta go with RDA. I'm gonna go submission. I think that Barberena will fight up, try to get up from a position, and it'll just lead to him exposing his neck at some point, and RDA will find that with his high-level jiu-jitsu. I'm going to say round 2. I think it's going to take a minute to get there, but yeah, I do see a submission. RDA submission round 2. Okay, guys, welcome to the main event breakdown. If you made it this far, drop a like, subscribe. Hope you guys enjoy the bets coming up for this week. Those will come out Thursday. And in for this main event, we have Wonderboy Thompson versus Kevin Holland. This is an interesting matchup. Wonderboy on a skid here, but against wrestlers, he's on a skid. And Kevin Holland, obviously, wrestlers kind of also his weakness. Kind of a weird point. And this is a very hard fight to break down because I think Wonderboy fights at range so well, and we're going to see him in a big cage. And Kevin Holland is very lengthy, but actually doesn't use his length quite as well as I think he should. But who do you think wins this fight?
Yeah, I like Kevin Holland in this one. I mean, I could see a knockout, but I would lean distance personally. But I know you like a knockout in this one. Holland tends to lose the first round. I mean, in the Alex Oliveira fight, he closed first round.
Right.
And then second round, he pretty much dominated from the bell. Same with Tim Means in that one. It took him around to get going, it felt like. So, I mean, I think after round 1, I think he'll pour it on him. And, I mean, maybe you could take him down. I don't know. Maybe he mixes in the wrestling.
I like that option too.
Yeah, I mean, if Thompson hurts him or touches him up, I think Holland could go to that. You know, he's got that in his back pocket.
Right. I think we're looking at almost a 10-year age gap here too, which is like a big red flag for me when looking at Wonderboy. It's like, how well can Wonderboy take a punch at this age right now? I mean, he didn't really get hit by Belal Muhammad, but Gilbert Burns threw some punches that even gave him, I think, some question marks. He got hit by Luque, but that was also 3 years ago. And you got to question motivation. You know, Kevin Holland's training camps have gotten probably way better since he started earning more from the UFC. He's way more promotable. And the dude's making the cut to 170, so that's a big commitment to cutting that weight. And the 81-inch reach. Now, I don't think this is going to play as big of a factor as some people might think it will versus Wonderboy's 75-inch. It's because Wonderboy always stays at so far out of range to use his kicks more as that length option. So I don't think the reach is as much a big deal as people think. I just think the unorthodox parts of Kevin Holland's game will be very hard for Wonderboy. I mean, Wonderboy hasn't had a knockout, right, for a while. It's been 6 years probably, right?
2016, Johnny Hendricks.
Right.
Spinning back kick.
That was at the end of Hendricks' kind of career, too. So, I just... And
Wonderboy's only been knocked out by Pettis, which was... He was winning that fight up until he got knocked out.
And I could see Wonderboy winning this whole entire fight, and then one strike putting him down.
Right.
And I'm actually not even that much of a... I'm going to say, what do you think if there's a knockout for Holland? I'm thinking round 3. You like that?
I would say 3-4.
All right, yeah. We'll do 3. I mean, I'm actually not a big Kevin Holland, giant fan like some people are. I mean, I don't dislike him, but I will not, preach about how great he is in any way.
I like him. He's entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, he's not my favorite, but, I just think that at this point in their careers, it's going to be hard for Wonderboy to find a finish. I mean, he can be in and out of range, but he doesn't have, crazy power on people when he dives in with that hand. I mean, the trademark of his game is just that he's at distance. And if you watch his last 5 fights, when has he been high volume? I mean, the Jeff Neal fight, he's a little bit more high volume, but like every one since then, it's like 2 or 3 strikes a minute maximum. That's not a very high number. And Kevin Holland should be searching for a finish here. Maybe the 5 rounds throws off the pace of this and it gets weird. I don't like how Kevin Holland's lead leg will probably be open for a lot of leg kicks. But like I said, the unorthodoxness of this guy, like you said, wrestling, he might get into range, find a body lock takedown, find a submission. I mean, I don't think Wonderboy would expect a takedown in this spot. So
I mean, even if Holland knocks Thompson down, I mean, I could see him trying for submission like he did against Tim Means.
Right. But yeah, I don't see too much of a bet for either person in this fight. But you just mentioned the over/under got moved from 2.5 to 4.5, and I personally like this fight to go under. I mean, Wonderboy probably won't knock out Holland, but I think there's a chance that there might just be some unorthodox strike that happens and gets Holland. He's on a thick weight cut there.
Yeah. Maybe you can throw a screenshot of this, but on DraftKings right now, over/under is set at 4.5, but then they have the alternate rounds, and they have it at under 4.5 at -165, but on alternate total rounds, under 4.5 is at -200. So they got the same line there, 35 points apart.
That's like what they have, those like weird little glitches, like when they change
Yeah,
numbers.
when the lines are moving that much, they tend to have that.
Anyway, I do like this one to go under. It depends how Kevin Holland paces this, but we've only seen him in 5-round fights with wrestlers. Again, I think you've said this before. He's never lost to a striker, I don't think, before. Although Thompson is one of the best strikers the UFC's seen. That's kind of the weird mesh up here. But I like the younger fighter, the hungrier fighter in Holland to get this one done. So, yeah. Okay, guys, these have been our picks for UFC Orlando. We have Thompson versus Holland. We took Holland and checked out the Instagram for all those bets early. Bets video on Thursday, NFL video on Wednesday. Anything else from you?
Like, comment, subscribe. Comment down who you're picking. Do you like our picks? Maybe not. I don't know.
All right, y'all.
Peace.
I know. It doesn't matter. I'm from the trenches. I'm built like this. The old doubted me said I couldn't do it. The old said I couldn't do it. Look at me now.